Welcome my friends to today's review. I would like to make a little recap of the Wcoop. We're gonna go over a few hands, and of course at the end of the review I will also break down and go through my bust out hand, which was very controversial. It was a very nasty spot, yeah, but we're gonna talk about that later. And also apologize in advance. My voice is almost gone. Yeah, I don't know. I think it was just very intense the past few weeks, and now I'm a little bit stricken, but not a big of a deal. I don't feel really sick or anything. Just my throat feels yeah, a little bit stressed. So I'm gonna make it rather quick today and try not to talk so much. So in case I sound a little bit weird, apologize for that. And I would say we jump right into the action. I had quite some interesting spots throughout the Wcoop. I will also make more live plays in the future again. I will also yeah, make more reviews. I will try to mix it up. I will also try to play cash game and sit and goes. Yeah, I have big plans for the future. I'm really thrilled to be back at content production. And also, sorry guys that I haven't been streaming that much or recording that much. I really wanted to focus on the grind, and I can luckily say it was a very successful Wcoop for me. I've been preparing a lot for this Wcoop. I've been studying insanely hard, and I've been trying to entirely focus on the grind. That's why I neglected the content production a little bit more during Wcoop, but I think it was worth it, and now I will try to catch up and give you guys some really good shit here. All right, let's jump right into the action. That was the Wcoop 4max mid, the $200. Almost the low, but I think it was the mid. Anyway, here on the button, we play against a recreational player, and we have a very easy defend here with Queen 7 off. Looks like a trashy hand, but against the button range that consists of yeah, a lot of garbage hands like Jack 4 suited, 7-8 suited, 10-7 suited. So there's still some hands we head against. We have we get a good price. Of course, there are also a lot of hands in this range we're behind against, but yeah, we only need 22% equity. Our equity utilization with Queen High isn't that great, but all in all, we should always make the call here. And we flop a rather dangerous board texture, and villain opts to go for a small c-bet. Against a recreational player, I think this is already big tell. Usually with their value hands, they size up a little bit, and let's say they size it up more often than a regular. I mean, of course, we should have small sizings and big sizings here. We have a lot of hands in our range that are incentivized just to play 2-3s, and like Pocket Queens wants to bet quite big, and like sorry, and like King 9 wants to bet quite big. There are some draws that want to bet big and shove the turn. So when a recreational player bets that small, I don't think he's doing it with a lot of strong hands here. He's either doing it with a very strong hand like Ace 7 in diamonds, 10-8 in diamonds, maybe Ace 10 in diamonds, where he wants us to continue with very weak hands. So I think here we should be shoving a fair amount of the time against the small sizing. I mean, it's not that small, it's around 35% pot size, so it's not ridiculously small. But yeah, I think when he sizes that small, it's rather weak. I opted to call. In hindsight, I would prefer seeing me shoving. I also had a sizing tell on him, but I'm not going to take that into consideration because I would like to discuss this spot in a more general approach, how to approach recreational players here in general. And yeah, I think when someone sizes that small, I'm probably shoving very wide because I think they're very often just bet folding a hand like King Jack, Ace King, Ace 5 in clubs, Ace Deuce in clubs, and they don't really know what to do, or maybe 6-3 suited or pocket deuces. This is a very typical pattern I have experienced from recreational players quite a lot. Turn is a jack, not the best card. It goes check check against the shove. It's getting close. We block a few of his draws like Queen 10, King Queen. But in these kind of spots, I really try to rely on my on sizing, like not sizings, but timing tells. So if he snap shoves, then I'm probably folding. Against regulars, I'm not paying too much attention to timing tells because they can also reverse it. And snap shove is strong hand a draw to make it appear strong. So you never know what your opponent is up to. But against recreational players, I think timing tells are very important. And I think if a recreational snaps fast, he is usually strong. But anyway, it goes check check, and we face this river. And now he bets really, really big. And I think he would have shoved a lot of draws on the turn, so he's not having that many diamonds in his range. And also he would have shoved a lot of jack-X on the turn, or at least keep betting. So he either has a very strong hand that was trapping, that doesn't need that much protection. Let's say Jack 10 diamonds, King Jack diamonds, these sort of hands, 10-8 diamonds. This is definitely possible, but we're talking about a few combinations. 4, 5, 6, less than 10 combinations. A miracle pocket deuces. And then he has all the king queens, he has all the king tens, he has all the ace kings with ace and diamonds, ace tens. So only these gutshot hands where he's not having the balls to execute the bluff here on the turn. And he was checking back with. He could have ace 5 with the ace and diamonds, ace 3 with the ace and diamonds. There are just so many hands, and I don't think he would size a jack. Let's say if he checked back a pot control jack on the turn, he wouldn't be sizing it that big, I think. So all in all, the way his range is probably, or the amount of hands that are part of his range that we are ahead against and that would play exactly the same way are just way too many than the hands we are behind against. So I opted to make the call, and he had 10 high. I think the preflop raise is a little too loose. He shouldn't be opening this hand into my stack because I'm going to defend fairly wide, and I'm also going to reshove very wide. So he's, 20-25% of the time he's not even going to see a flop. And then post-flop, he will have a hard time continuing. The river, he's clearly over bluffing. If he has 10-5, he will also have all the ace-X and diamonds, or king-X and diamonds, king 5 off with king and diamonds, king 8 off with king and diamonds. So but that's why he's a recreational player, and we're not going to blame them. We're happy they do mistakes, and sometimes they will be right and they win the pot and suck us out, but this happens. Next hand, and by the way, I'm always a big fan of rather making good laydowns, but the more experience you get, the more you will see spots where people's ranges are just too wide in certain spots, and they're gonna end up with a shitload of trash hands. And even you just have second or third pair, you should be calling. There are many spots where people are heavily over bluffing, yet there are also spots where people are heavily under bluffing. So I want to show you guys both sides of the coin here. I want to show you spots where I think the population or certain player types are heavily over bluffing, and then there are certain types that are heavily under bluffing. We have a clear open here with ace jack off. It was the 2K knockout 6 max last week, or was it a 1K? I'm not 100% sure. It was a 1K or 2K. Connor defends the big blind, and flop comes 3-5-4. I think we can mix up betting and checking. The problem if he jams on us, since it's a bounty, he can jam any 6, any deuce. He can jam ridiculously wide on us with the bounty in play, and then we probably might have to bet call with ace jack with a backdoor flush draw. Anyway, I opted to check back. Essentially here, it's a board texture where I want to have a big sizing and a small sizing. I would usually go quite large with hands like 9s and 10s, bet 2-third pot. I want to jam on many turns. I want to get it in now, and protect my hand as much as possible on that board texture. It's not, yes, of course he has a few straights, but he's not having deuce 6 off He probably just has 6-7 off, 6-7 suited. They do 6 suited, so he has of course a shit ton of straights, but not 100% of all straights because he's not having 6 deuce off, which is very important here. Anyway, and I don't think he has 3-5 off. I don't think he has 3-4 off. He has a suited 2 pairs, so we shouldn't be afraid of too many better hands if we have an overpair. Also, pairs are very often reshoving pre-flop. We still have a raise folding range here, so I think he will be shoving 5s and 4s. Let's say not 100% of the times, but definitely quite frequently. So I opted to check back, and now he goes for a very large turn back, and I think we have to call once with 2 overcards, and him having an insanely wide betting range here on the turn with pretty much any draw, any 6, any deuce, and then play river. And the river bricks, and it's not a brick, but it's, I don't think that he would be betting a flush draw that big so often. I mean, he could and then commit himself against a shove. But I think, for example, 4x and clubs wouldn't be betting that big. I also think that an extremely strong draw, like a6 clubs, a7 clubs, would maybe size it down a little bit. It's just based on my experience, and he's polarizing himself to these kind of 6x or deuce x hands. And yeah, we also have a relatively good blocker. He jams, and he still has, I mean, we don't need to pull up a power equilab here. You can probably guess for yourself how many bluffs he can potentially have. And he has all these king 6 with king and clubs, king 7 with king and clubs, king deuce with kings and clubs, 10-6 suited and off suited, 10-7 with 10 and clubs. So there's just so many hands. I mean, if I were to put it in equilab, this would be an easy call. And we also need to call some hands. Remember, we're gonna bet most of our strong hands on the flop, so we need to bluff catch one of the ace highs we come to the river with. An ace king, ace jack. I mean, we're gonna snap call any queen. Ace jack with ace king with ace of clubs is a real bluff catcher here. Otherwise, he's printing with his bluffs. If he's under bluffing, this is a question I also get a lot. Ben, I'm going to play against a weak opponent. I'm not sure if he's bluffing or not. Yes, you lose a little bit money with your bluff catchers if you make the call, but you're going to make so much money. Let's say you check back and you call at the turn with ace 10 in spades, and now he shoves, he checks his jack 6 because he's afraid to make the bluff. Then you're going to win the pot, which you're not supposed to win. And this is something you have to keep in mind. All the instances where your opponent was supposed to bluff, but he didn't pull the trigger, and it goes check, check, and you win with a hand you're not supposed to win. In those spots, you're going to make a lot of money. But the problem is, if you start folding hands, which are supposed to be calls, you're going to lose money when your opponent is making the right amount of bluffs. And then he's punishing you for overfolding, right? So, yes, I mean, this doesn't mean that we should always be so much focused on GTO, but of course, when you know your opponent is weak and there are certain spots where population is under bluffing, then you overfold, because then you're going to make money when he's bluffing, and you're also going to make money when he's not bluffing. So we try to basically attack him in both situations, when he's bluffing and when he's not bluffing. When he's not bluffing, very often it goes check, check, and we win. But when we play against a good opponent and we don't know what he's up to, that's where I like to lean back and play a little bit more of a GTO approach and try to not overfold in some spots where I think my opponent might be bluffing the right frequencies. That is very, very important, guys. Yet this should not give you the allowance to always make GTO calls, because and actually most of the spots it's literally bullshit. And I'm always a big fan of trying to play more exploitative and then rather overfold. But there are certain spots where it's just so easy for your opponent to overbluff, and this is one of the other spots. And he was even bluffing wider than he probably is supposed to. And we win a nice little pot here as well. Let's go to the next hand. This is a multi-way spot. this is something I'm gonna also be focused more on my studying multi-way pots, because they're very, very important. 8-7 suited, being that deep, it's definitely a reasonable squeeze here. 3-bet, sorry. Especially the small man is a really good regular, but I opted just to call. He also, as you can see, on the first 30 hands, he was very, very active, so it's more likely he's a recreational player. Playing many hands in the early stage is always an indicator that our opponent is a recreational player. So I would prefer to 3-bet a hand like King 8 suited, because he's going to defend with 10-8 suited, 8-9 suited, Queen 8 suited, right? I mean, there's still good defense, but he might even call 8-5 suited, he might call Ace-8 off, and I'm gonna own myself with these kind of hands, so I would prefer having higher equity hands than these weaker hands. I think it's a good hand to 3-bet against the regular. And flop is Ace King 10, and I would like to talk about this spot from two different perspectives. First perspective, we assume both opponents are good opponents, and we come to the turn. I think it's a good card to start betting here and to apply maximum pressure on 10x hands and king x hands. And I had a little bit of a timing tell in game as well, and that's why it is so crucial to pay attention to timing tells, because they're both snap check. And I think if they have ace queen, ace jack, ace 9, they would at least debate to bet, or ace 5, right? And especially for cutoff. And since they're both snap check, they're very often on hands like 8s, 9s, jacks, queens, and I think with two barrels, queens, jacks might be call ones, or hand like queen jack, jack 10, king jack, king queen. And we picked up a little bit of equity against those hands with being able to make trips in 2 pairs. We block hands like 10-7, king 7, ace 7, which I think isn't that important, because I think they would be start betting, but in case they have it, we block 7s that might be on a trap now. And that's why I opted to go for a big bet, and my plan was to bet any river except the queen jack, because I think that very often improves their hands to straight or 2 pair, which they then won't be folding anymore, and they overvalue their hand strength, and they're probably gonna call all the 2 pairs, and they totally neglect that they also have a shit ton of straights then, and their call, my fold equity goes down to like, I don't know, 5%, 10%, and I'm not gonna bluff in this spot then. So pay attention to those spots where your opponents are very weak. They're great spots in multi-way pots where you can play fairly aggressive, because people think, oh, I don't have anything, I'm just gonna give up, and they would just start betting on the turn everything, and they probably just bet their ace6 for protection, and are not thinking about protecting their range with ace-x and check call, and they end up check calling once the turn and then have insane high check fold on the river, and we can punish that a lot. It works out well here on the turn, and now let's go to the next hand. We have 18 big blinds from another gun, ace queen off, and a regular 3-bet us from the low jack. And this is one of the spots where yeah, you can literally puke. And I want to give you guys a very simplified strategy here. We're not gonna shove unless we have the read that our opponent is crazy or aggro. I mean, going broke here with ace queen off 18 big blinds will never be such a big mistake. But we call and we play post flop. It's that easy, and we play check fold. First of all, it also looks quite strong from our opponent's perspective, right? We can have a few traps. We have king queen suited, king jack suited, probably ace queen, which our opponent might not perceive us to have. And we call, and we might even have queen jack suited perceived from our opponent's range. From our opponent, and we just check fold. It's really that easy. I mean, I don't even feel bad folding against such a small price, because I think my opponent's betting range is going to be ace king, ace queen, queens, kings, aces, and jacks. and perhaps even 10s and 9s. I mean, against 10s, 9s, I think 10s, 9s would be just shoving pre-flop and not 3-betting that small or 3-betting bigger. And it's a spot where, yes, we have 15% equity, but very often we're gonna be drawing dead, or we have 5 to 10% equity. It's a spot where people just don't bluff. And I don't need to worry. I have a few traps with aces, kings. I have the jack X hands. I have a few flush draws with king, queen. So I have ace, queen and clubs. So I still have a lot of hands here in my range. From a theoretical standpoint, ace, queen, the queen and clubs, we're probably supposed to call once, but from an exploitative standpoint, how people build their 3-bet ranges here in this spot, I just don't want to throw my stack away here, being that, being so bad in shape against his range. I think our opponent is a girl, by the way, against her range, and she's a really good regular, so she of course can have a few bluffs, but I don't really think that's a spot where people have a shit ton of bluffs. And ace queen is somewhat also the bottom of your range, of my range, so I'm just gonna let it go. There are other spots. This is one of the spots where I don't think people end up having so many bluffs. And if she has bluffs, that's alright. I'm gonna have, the problem is if she's bluffing a lot, my range is so strong that her bluffs have very little equity. If she's randomly stabbing with ace 5 and hearts or whatever. And doing that with a high frequency. I mean, she's supposed to have a few bluffs, but ranges are so strong on this spot that she shouldn't be over bluffing. This is a standard bounty spot here. I would like to go over real quick. Big blind is a very good sit and go regular, and he shoves on us, and I just would like to break down the math real quick. It's the bounty builder 500, a spot where I would like to see whether I made the right call or not. And so he had 1.5 starting bounties. So let's see, I put in everything in our bounty calculator. I think the bounty builder 500 is always around 500 players. I think it was around 355 players left. The bounty price pool by a regular price pool, our stack, big blind, small blind, ante, numbers of players. I think bounty antes, it's not 100% accurate, but it's enough. It's around 10-12% antes. Oh, number of players with 8 players on the table. We open raise to 3.4k. He rips 20.2k. Starting stack is 25,000. He has 1.5 starting bounties. Then we click on calculate and we see we need 32% equity. Let's see. I mean, his range is very, very close. Tight, sorry. I think something like this. Not sure if he even rejams ace-9 suited. Let's leave it out. King-queen suited is also debatable. You can see it's very, very close. It's very, very close. We should probably make the call and gamble a little bit, because if we win, we're going to cover cutoff as well, and we're also going to cover Adrian as well, which I think at this point they had quite a big bounty. So for that reason, I opted to make the call, and I think he had pocket jacks. Yeah. All right. Last hand for today, and this is the most interesting hand, one of my most important hands the course of the past months, if not even years. I mean, these spots you definitely want to avoid, but sometimes they happen. And yeah, let's see what happens here. Some might say I totally fucked it up. Some might say, well, there's nothing you can do. It's a very controversial hand, and yeah, let's go over it. So I defend Queen 10 suited, which is pretty standard. Nothing so spectacular here. As you can see, this guy, only 37 hands here, but I mean, I have been observing him, and he played very, very aggro, at least pre-flop. I haven't had so many reads on him post-flop, but yeah, we'll see. So he bets on the flop, and One thing to consider is here the sizing. He makes it quite big, but for multi-way pot, I think it's alright to size it up a little bit. And kind of folds. And I mean, there's only 1.5 million in the middle. He will have a bunch of, let's say, ace king hearts, king queen hearts, where he wants to play maximum pressure. Ace king with ace in hearts, or he has a very strong draw which he wants to get in against on the flop. Queen jack hearts or ace king hearts, king queen hearts, king jack hearts. All these sort of hands, or ace five hearts. So I wouldn't mind check jamming here, protecting our hand, but just call. And the turn is a 9. And I think now it starts becoming interesting. It's a card that is really good for our range because we're gonna have 8-9, 10-9. We're probably gonna have pocket 9s with peer 1s, and he's not betting all these hands. I mean, of course, he's betting 10-9, but we have 10-9 off. So we have way more 2 pairs, and we have way more straights than he has, right? We also have Jack 7 suited. Of course, we have all Queen Jacks, as well as he does. We have all 6-7s, because we have a double gutter. So it's a card where I definitely want to start leading. So with my entire range, I mean, if you want to lead with Queen 10, it's definitely debatable. But I want to start taking over the lead here and dictate the price. I don't want him to now bet 1.2 million with aces and then fold to the bet. So, and he can't really shove that many hands because our range is very well protected. So I think on this board texture, he isn't jamming so many aces, kings now. Because we have a bunch of 2 pairs, we have a bunch of straights, and we're gonna have 3 million or 3.1 million and 2.8 million left, so it's gonna be alright. We can then, on a safe river, we can jam our 2 pairs and straights, and let's say if we have Jack deuce and hearts, we can jam the river, attacking his 10x hands, or if we have a hand like Queen 5 in hearts, we can jam the river, make him fold better draws, apply maximum pressure on 10x. So I think the lead is totally fine, because I'm realizing my equity quite a lot here against his overpairs, and I'm dictating the price. You should do it in spots where the card improves your range significantly, right? And this card definitely does. So I went for a small bet, and now he jams. And as I said, I really don't think he's jamming that many overpairs here. Maybe jacks, maybe queens, maybe a few combos of kings. So yeah, but let's see. Let's try to put him on a range here. So I really don't think he's shoving that many overpairs. Because it's hard to say. I think he shouldn't be shoving that many overpairs. Because he's going to be drawing that against the straights. He's drawing very thin against the 2 pairs. And if I have a hand like King 10 with pocket kings, he rather wants to keep me in the pot and not make me fold King 10 or Ace 10. And eventually make me level myself into hero call in the river. Of course I'm calling Queen 10, but if against my entire calling range, let's look at from that perspective as well. If you should be shoving aces or kings here, or queens or jacks. So we have the flop, 10 in spades, 8 in hearts, 4 in hearts, and 9 in spades. And let's take aces, and we bet call. I mean, I don't have 10-8, I'm raising on the flop, but I have 8s. 4s I'm raising as well, so we have 9-8, 10-9, all the straights, queen jacks, yeah, bet calling the queen 10 in diamonds. I mean, I'm bet calling, of course, queen 10 in hearts and queen 10. Yeah, queen 10 in hearts. I'm bet calling as well. Queen 10 spades is not possible. Queen 10 clubs I'm folding. Queen 10 clubs we should probably also be bet calling. So that's it, I think. If I have a hand like Jack 10, I keep check calling. Because it has easy, even if he bets 1.2 million, I have an easy call because against his overpairs and his potential draws he can have, I don't need to start leading this hand because I have easy the equity against his entire range and it plays so much easier on the river. So I will definitely have some check calls here in my range, right? So it's not like that I start betting 100% of the time. I might have a few 10-8s, only a few. Yeah, then all Jack 7s, of course. I'm not gonna have Jack 7 off here in this spot. Yeah, this is my bet calling range. So as you can see, he has only 10% equity. Of course, he has the advantage that, let's say, if he jams aces, I'm folding a bit of equity with 10-5 suited or a queen 10, or let's say queen 10 or king 10 if he jams aces. So he's folding out a bit of equity, but the situation or instances when I have a hand, he's dead. He's nearly dead. So he shouldn't be shoving his overpairs. But of course, we never know how perfect they play. So I signed him a few of the overpairs, and king jacks, king queens in hearts, ace king, ace queen in hearts. You could also have ace king, ace queen in spades, ace 6, ace 7 in hearts, and that's it. All sets. Queen jack, I really don't think he's shoving queen jack, to be honest. I think he gains too much fold equity. I think he would slow play. If I can give him queen jack, but remember, I'm also not giving him, like, he could easily have 9-7 in spades. Sorry, 9-7 in hearts. He could also have ace 5 in hearts. So all in all, I think it's quite realistic. He still has a bunch of overpairs which he might not be shoving with. So yeah, and as you can see, it's very close. We need 32. We have 30.38. Yeah, it's definitely very close. I mean, you know, you never know if he's jamming all the draws, but it's the same with the ace jack we had earlier. When I don't know what my opponent is up to, I just think about my range, my blockers, and I'm gonna bet folding all my 10x, ace 10, king 10, bet calling my queen 10, where at least have the backup. I mean, it makes it a little bit better, gives me these additional 10%, let's say, as he had here when he has pocket 10s. And in case he's shoving over pair, I have an additional gut shot. So yeah, that was the end of my Wcoop main event. He showed up with pocket 10s, and yeah, sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, and keep in mind, it's all about being right in the long run. Was just nothing. I mean, of course I could have folded. I'm not saying I played it perfectly right, or if someone says I fucked it up, he's never jamming any draws on the turn, that's alright. I'm definitely never going to be in that position of denying any feedback in these kind of spots. Just the way it went, and I tried to learn from it. I tried to get better, and I'm very grateful for that experience. I'm also very grateful to be in that spot, because those really nasty spots when so much is on stake, so much is at stake, it just makes you better. And next time, I hope I will make a better decision. But I was very happy for the deep run. I was very happy how the entire Wcoop went. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, drop it in the comments or join our Discord. And I hope you guys had a successful Wcoop. If not, learn from it, get better, come back stronger, and then see you at the tables. Ciao guys.